Anastasia. Russell. Are we waiting one more minute? Or just in case anybody else joins? Great. And thank you all for making time, 9 o'clock or whatever it is for you, probably 9 or 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Not always easy. So we're really glad that you're here. How do you say that, John?
You'd have to mean Martin Mike.
Say it again.
Irish for good mo. Martin Mike.
Martin Mai.
My who, good.
Lovely, thank you.
Should we make a start?
Let's go.
So I guess we'll start off maybe just by introducing ourselves to the session. So welcome to this second session of the new academic community of practice as we look to introduce and integrate donut economics into university courses. My name is Ross. I am a member of the Rethinking Economics International team, and I've been working with Kate for a few years now, kind of bringing this together and the various other projects. And as I said, this is the second session where we've been bringing together academics who are interested in working out how to integrate this amazing material into their courses. Thank you so much for coming and looking forward to the session. I'll hand you over to Kate next.
Hi, I'm Kate Raworth. I'm the author of Donut Economics and the co-founder of Donut Economics Action Lab. And I'm sitting in my home office in the city of Oxford where I live. And I'm really, really delighted that you're all joining us this morning. I'm looking forward to this conversation because this topic of integrating donut economics into university courses is very close to my heart. It's where the book Donut Economics came from in the first place. So this means a lot to me. Let me hand over to Gemma.
Morning, everybody. Lovely to see you. Hope you're all keeping well. So my name is Gemma, and I am a new member of Rethinking Economics International, and my title is Climate Campaigns Lead, with a particular focus on this donut economics campaign, supporting students to put donut economics in the syllabus and also academic practitioners to put it into the syllabus. So lovely to see you all.
I guess, Kate, do you want to kick us off by giving us a bit of an introduction to the resources, what they look like, how they have been used before we launch into the main part of the session?
Very happily. So I hope everybody's familiar already with the web page, but I'll post it in the chat anyway. But I'm going to share my screen and take you through a little bit of this story. So if I share my desktop, there we go. So here we've got Donut Economics for University Courses. It is a web page on the site of Donut Economics Action Lab. Where did it come from? I wrote Donut Economics, 7 Ways to Think Like a 21st Century Economist, because I was a student of economics myself in this same city where I come back to many years later, in the city of Oxford. In 1990, and I was deeply frustrated by what I was taught. And the book Donut Economics is really my coming back to this very discipline that I was deeply frustrated by. But I should also say, even though it's called Donut Economics, the ideas that are contained within it are really about paradigm change. And so they go beyond economics courses. We can integrate it into economics courses, but many people are integrating it into geography, political science, development studies, architecture, urban design, health. So it's not only for economics courses. 2 years ago, one of the founding fathers of ecological economics, called Herman Daly, he passed away. And I was really struck when he died of how, you know, that sense when your elders, the people who profoundly inspire you, they're leaving. And you feel this feeling of, I have to step up. I can no longer say, oh, the elders are there, the elders are there. No, we are the rising generation. I'm in my mid-50s now. That feeling of, oh, got to step up. What more can I do? And I was teaching a lecture in donut economics in Oxford University to some master's students, and at the end of it, some of them just came rushing up to me and said, why isn't this the economic mindset that's taught to all undergraduate students in this university already? Why isn't this just normal? And something snapped in me. Herman Daly's just passed away. The students are demanding it. And something just said, right, we're going to do it. So I put on a guerrilla course in economics, a free night course, because the university wasn't teaching it. So I just did it for free at night, working with the students, working with Rethinking Economics here in Oxford. And we put it on in the Saïd Business School, in the biggest lecture theatre the university had, because lots of students wanted to do it. So there was a lovely momentum. And I did it just in person, not recording anything, just over 8 sessions. Each session was one of the 7 ways to think. But of course, I only did this in the city of Oxford for those students because I knew that it was giving me a practice ground, a piloting opportunity to create something then to share with everybody. And so the results of that are now these materials shared online for everyone. So when you see this homepage on our course, you can see the photograph that we took outside the Saïd Business School with those students. That was the first time we ran it through. So the result that I was always moving towards was, what if we created materials that could be available for anybody who wants to pick them up and integrate them into their own courses and start bringing these ideas in the best way that they can see fits the opportunity they have to integrate it, whether it's an entire new course or whether it's just bringing in 3 slides and adding them to an existing course, but bringing a new angle. So the aim of this webpage is to provide materials for educators primarily, but students are obviously welcome to look at them because they are open access. Anybody can see them. We've put them in the commons, and that's a really important point to say, that the concepts of donut economics we've already put in the commons, and the materials draw on other people's materials that are already shared publicly. So they're fully linked, fully referenced if we've used anybody else's sources. So as you can see on this website, on this webpage, first of all, we invite you to join the academic community of practice, and Ross and Gemma will talk more about that today. If students come here, we invite them to join the student campaign. Both of these are being hosted and led by Rethinking Economics. And then beneath that, lots of drop downs. So we've got welcome and background, share your feedback. We'd love your feedback on these materials. And then the 7 ways, and they're all here. Each one is a little drop down tab. So if I just take us into the second one, see the big picture, the same format for each one of them. There's a short overview of just saying what this content is about so that you can navigate the kind of content you're looking for. A short little summary of some of the topics addressed, like framing a new worldview, the embedded economy diagram, core concepts of ecological economics, the household commons, the market and the state, comparing worldviews. And then here, this is really crucial, getting started, there's a slide deck in PowerPoint or in Google Slides. And I'm going to flip just to those. So if you click on Google Slides here, you will come to this slide deck. Here it is. There's a lot of slides here. So the first thing I should say about these slides, to be super clear, this is not a lecture. It would be weird for anybody to write a set of lecture slides for anybody else. So this is not a lecture. There are way too many slides here. There are 78 slides here. That's not a lecture. What this is, and we invite you to think of it as a set of ingredients, like a set of recipe, ingredients that you can turn into your own recipe. So each of the yellow slides here divides up small subsections, and they're summarized in the contents. So each of these headings is one of the yellow slides, and behind it is a small chunk of materials that you could then draw on for your teaching. So if I go back here, you can see from the overview, for example, the first one talks about the power of visual models, and there's just a few slides with footnotes underneath every slide telling you what the message is around that slide, around the power of visualization. Then there's about 10 slides around critiquing the standard circular flow diagram, and I did it by adding in all sorts of things that are missing. They added in, so sequentially added in, and there's a question at the end, what's the consequences? That's a chunk of material. You might say, oh, that's really useful way of critiquing this diagram that I have to teach. I'm just going to add that in. You can take those slides, put them into your talk, and then carry on with what you were doing. Here it goes on to talking about the conceptual foundations of neoliberalism in quite a playful way, and there's an animation embedded in one of the slides. Coming then to the embedded economy diagram, lots of ways of introducing it. We move on then to core concepts in ecological economics. There's Herman Daly, who I was talking about, going into his concepts, presenting them in different ways. And then, for example, within here on slide 50, this is just saying Dan O'Neill, who is one of the most respected academics in the field of ecological economics, a real successor to Herman Daly. He's made some fantastic videos. So here, this slide is just, it's giving you a little door opening into a whole other set of resources. Go check out Dan O'Neill's little videos on ecological economics because they're wonderful. So there are resources within resources. Come back out of here. We then go into the embedded economy diagram, the market, the state, the household, and the commons. There's one slide on each of those, just really at a broad framing level. And then the last set here is activities for deeper exploration. So these slides that follow are just lots of different potential activities that you could dive into and comparing worldviews. So that's the slide decks. And for each one of the 7 ways to think, there is a slide deck of equivalent depth and variety. Again, they're ingredients that you could take a small chunk of these. You can adapt them. You can integrate them into your teaching. They're absolutely designed to be taken as a little Lego block, as a piece, to be integrated into what you are already doing. So let me come back here. That's the slides. And as I said, there's a set for each one of these ways to think. And then there's readings and resources underneath. So for each of the ways, I've listed the chapter in the book Donut Economics because it refers to all that material. So here it's chapter 2 on See the Big Picture. But then there's this deeper dive section. And here I've just brought together lots of fantastic material, either that I was referring to already in the book or that has been published since or that I've been made aware of since, and chunk them into small little sections again. So on the origins of the circular flow diagram, if you want to know about the history of that diagram and its influence. And for each of these references, you can see I've cited the academic reference, but then written one sentence just trying to describe what this piece of work does, so that, again, it saves you having to open something up and what is this? Just trying to summarize the value, the insight, the focus of that piece of work. So something on the neoliberal narrative, embedded economy diagram, the foundations of ecological economics. And some of these are academic articles, some of these are more popular articles, some of these are websites, some of these are tools, some are videos, some are podcasts. So it's really multimedia. And again, these are offered as a set of ingredients. If you are writing your own reading lists and preparation lists for your students, we hope that there's just masses of material here for you to choose from to find the right kind of material that will fit the course that you're teaching. So there's just a lot of material here. Again, this is obviously far more than any one reading list could be, but it sets you up. And that's the content that we provide across all 7 ways to think. So we hope that you will, for each one of them that's relevant to whatever you're teaching, go in, open that deck of slides, look and see if there's anything useful, look at those readings, find videos and readings that are useful. We'd also love it if you share back, right? In this session, share your feedback. Let us know if there are obvious materials or videos or fantastic things that absolutely should be there, or something that you think is wrong or profoundly missing in the slides. We'd love that feedback from you, because this is just the first iteration of it. We call it in the Donut Economics Action Lab, we always talk about things being genset, Genset. It's good enough for now. It's safe enough to try. So is it genset? And I would say these materials are genset. They're not perfect, they're not complete, they're not finished, they're not comprehensive, but they're good enough for now. They're safe enough to try. Let's launch version 1, and let's just build on the feedback that we receive in order to improve them iteratively over time. So we're so thrilled that you've joined us now, and really hope that you will look at these materials, draw on them, or maybe you already have done, but will help us improve them by pointing out what could be done, what could be added, just to keep lifting them up so they become more and more useful to more and more teachers and lecturers. I will stop there. I hope that's a good, quick overview of these materials, and hand back to Ross and to Gemma.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kate. So yeah, as Kate said, we launched these materials at the tail end of last year as part of Global Donut Day. And in the is it five or so months since that launch, the materials have been used at a number of institutions. We've started to see the effects of their implementation. So at the University of Sapienza in Italy, they are being integrated into core modules from the next academic year. At the previous academic community of practice session, we heard from David Diaz, who's a lecturer at the University of Puerto Rico, who has changed some of the political economy courses that are taught there, but is hopefully going to create a new ecological economics new module built around these resources. We've seen the integration of these materials into business schools, Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK, University of Louvain in Belgium. We're really excited at how these are being taken up. But we also recognise that the process of making change to curricula isn't always easy, depending on the institution. Sometimes bureaucracy can get in the way. What we often find is ideology gets in the way. People say, well, is this real economics? They disagree with kind of the fundamental, the foundations of what we recognise as being so integral to put into that undergraduate economics offer. So this forum, this community of practice that we're creating is really designed to provide the sorts of support, guidance, hopefully inspiration that will allow members, academics like yourselves to better implement these changes into your courses. We are also accompanying this work in providing this forum for interested academics with a student campaign. So there are students, a number of universities around Europe, which are campaigning to change the way that their undergraduate modules are being taught. We recently had a real success at the University of Copenhagen, where they've agreed to hire a new ecological economics professor. We also have campaigns that are being prepared over the summer at Edinburgh, Manchester, UCL, LSE, Copenhagen again. So lots of really exciting things are happening. At the minute, though, I would say, this is our second session of this community of practice. And at the minute, probably Gemma, Kate, and I are a bit of the face of this community of practice. We're the ones that have introduced the sessions, led the sessions, but we recognize that the success of this work, we're not going to be that success. It's going to be down to building a community and the exchange that really works for you, that really celebrates the successes of people using this work around the world, and that really responds to and gives a forum for people to talk about the kind of questions or concerns or things that they're stuck on, really try and help them work through that. So this session, view this as a bit of we're still kind of like trying to work out how best to organize and prepare this for in future sessions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to basically hear a bit from you, a bit more about kind of where you are, what you teach, what you'd like to learn from today's session, what you'd like to learn from kind of using and implementing these resources. And I think we had initially said we'd go into breakout rooms, but I think with this smaller group, we should maybe just stay in the main room for this part. And what I'd ask you to do is, Gemma, if you could post those questions in the chat. And I think we started doing answering a few of these questions in our check-in, who you are and where you're calling from. But if people would like to share a little bit about what you teach and kind of what brought you along to today's session, that would be really useful to hear. You are more than welcome to post that in the chat and we can read them out and respond to them. If you would like to dive straight in, feel free to unmute yourself and kind of share what's brought you along today and what you would like to get out today in the use of these resources.
Hi, everyone. Maybe I can kick it off.
Yes, perfect, Anastasia.
Good. So hi, I'm Anastasia. I call in from Brussels. I work at the University of Antwerp for the last few years, where I teach some introductory courses to our urban bioscience engineering master. So I'm teaching basically environmental engineers specialized on cities. And I teach them a lot of introductory courses, introduction to sustainability, introduction to resources management in cities like energy, water, and so on. So I discovered the website a while ago, and I've already have been using it. I was so thankful to find it out. So thanks for that. The reason I'm joining, and maybe what I would like to learn more and to discuss with people, is how then to teach that not only to economists but to engineers, which means that, for example, I don't have the time, and the students don't always know so much about, let's say, the mainstream economics as well. And I find it a bit dangerous to discuss only the alternative without them having the basics, not because oh my god, I should be objective and present all sides, because no, but just because if they do have a more in-depth understanding in the mainstream economics as well, it makes for a more powerful, for them to see the difference and to see the change. So I'm a bit hesitant to that, to bring the alternative without the mainstream, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this on the one hand. And on the other hand, again, teaching engineers that is so much about, doing and about applying and so on. I'm also really willing to discuss about also cases and how the donut has been applied to cities, for example, which I have been in contact actually with the people in Brussels, but still it's more of an the beginning phases. So these are my two big questions.
Amazing, Anastasia. And I think the way we'll do it, I've made a note of those questions, and maybe after we've heard some introductions, we'll come back, and I imagine some of these questions may reappear. We'll come back and go through them. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anastasia. I think I see John's hand raised.
Hi, everybody.
Your signal's breaking up a bit for me, John. You've gone quite robotic.
Can you hear me now? I maybe get somebody else to talk, and I'll try and see if my internet comes up. So go to somebody else.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Would anyone else like to go next? Feel free to unmute yourself, or feel free to, if you wouldn't like to do that, or you're not in a place where you can, you're also able to post in the chat. Welcome, Dasha. Oh, this looks absolutely amazing. Really, really great to have you here, Dasha, representing the 1HE. And yeah, we will hopefully touch on some of these points in the session. Welcome, Dasha. Who'd like to go next?
Actually, John, your internet did sound better towards the end. Do you want to try again?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Perfect, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm John Barry. I'm Professor of Green Political Economy at Queen's University, Belfast in Ireland. I think it's just wonderful to join with other pioneers in a new economic paradigm shift, which we absolutely need. A bit like Kate, I've been at this a long time, going back to the early 1990s. So it's nice that we're all an overnight success after 3 decades, where there's a lot more movement now in the post-growth space. So 4 things I wanted to mention. One is I'd really look forward to each of us sharing resources in the same way that Kate has offered her gift in terms of syllabi, particular engaging ways in which we found to communicate what's often complex ideas to students, and I'm more than happy to do that. I'm located myself in a social science department, but like many others in this area, I'm extremely intellectually promiscuous. So I do a lot of interdisciplinary work in terms of teaching engineers, public health professionals, but mostly sociologists, political theory historians here in my university. And I would also like to suggest that it will be also good as part of this community of practice if people feel up for giving the odd guest lecture remotely on each of our courses, which I think will also be quite useful for us to, create a community, but also learn from each other and so on. And the last thing I'd say is that, again, this might be unique to my own position. I don't think it is to Kate, is public engagement. So to use some of the materials we may generate in terms of community engagement, so outside the classroom or media work that some of us are involved in. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to learn from each other and to share as much as we can, because we badly need a new economic paradigm ASAP. The last thing I'd say is that I would certainly welcome discussions around the ideological indoctrination by neoclassical economics in our schools of, well, sadly, don't even often have schools or departments of economics anymore. They're business schools, they're management schools. And I think that itself requires a particular attention. So great to be here. Thanks for listening. And thankfully, my internet held up.
Amazing, John. I think I'm just going to change the way it probably appears on your screen to make it a little bit more, feels a bit more like we're all part of the same room and take us off a stage format. I've now just put you on the stage. Perfect. So you should now be able to change your view and see all of our pictures all at once, which might feel a bit more like we're sitting around a circle. Thank you very much for that, John. And I made a note of those points, and they are really exciting and really some of the ideas that we had about how we can make this, community of practice not just be a Zoom call that we come to once a quarter, but something that feels very tangible. Magdalene, I think, were you going to introduce yourself next? Feel free to go next.
Yes, I teach at different universities, but in one university, I also give an introduction to sustainability and development, and also about I try to introduce the different perspective on the topic and to combine a discussion on planetary health with the discussion on traditional and economics and donut economics, so it's not so easy. And I have discovered, yes, and I'm also a board member of the German Society for Sustainability at University, and I'm very pleased that Horst will present this a community of practice in a few weeks to our members, and not to our members, but to other a leader of national networks with a similar topic. And what I wanted to say about the materials, I find it really interesting what you have upload. And next week, I will start with my first session of a book club. And I use for this book club some recommendation of Dill. And I have combined it with some books from Germany. And yesterday not yesterday, but I would like to, because I found the 8th session that you have developed very interesting for teachers, but in our university, we don't have a lot of time for the introduction of the 8th session. So that's the reason why I would like to develop materials for the students for them homeworks, and I will be happy if somebody in in this community could do that with me, would be interested, because I think nowadays it's better if we have a lecture to use this time for discussion and not so much for theoretical topics. That's the reason why I find that this material is really a very good basis for the development of self-study for students.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, probably pointing to John's point as well, that, you know, the resources are currently in English. We want them to be in German, French, Spanish, Arabic, Swahili. So that the resource bank, I think, would be really, really, really useful and beneficial. Thank you very much. And I've made a note of some of those points you've raised, and we'll come back and dive into them. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you for sharing from Lublin. Interesting fact. Great to have you here, Andrew, and thank you for sharing. Hi, Junko.
Hello. I'm actually calling from Switzerland, but I'm on sabbatical from the US, and I'm from Colorado, and I am an environmental engineer by training. I teach a class on sustainable engineering design to engineering seniors and grad students, and they're from mostly civil and environmental engineering, but I get students from all over campus. And I don't know how all of the majors on our campus do design. So the class really focuses on tools for assessing sustainability. So we spend a lot of time on life cycle assessment. We talk about social sustainability, and I do a little bit about economic sustainability. I am not by any means well-versed in economics. And so I love John's idea of guest lectures. I'm interested in how I might be able to incorporate this donut framework when I talk about economic sustainability. It seems like it's very accessible, and it fits nicely with the way that I frame sustainability more broadly. And so, yeah, the sort of nested circles definitely struck me as like, oh yeah, this is exactly how I talk about things. And so I think it's a natural fit in the way that I teach my class, and I'm hoping to get a little bit of sort of introduction, good ideas of how I might sort of quickly pull that in. Oh, and I'll note too that I'm also, like John, intellectually promiscuous, and I love to collaborate with my social science colleagues. So I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. We're excited to have you. And there's a really good Joan Robinson quote, which is something, I'm going to misquote it now. It's the purpose of studying economics is to learn how to avoid being deceived by the economists. So you will probably have a very rich understanding of the study of the economy, but yeah, the economics department is very effective in saying actually economics is very, very narrow, and you're not in the club. So welcome. As an economist and as an engineer, you're very welcome here. Leonith or Nancy, if you would like to introduce yourself, you're really welcome to. You can post in the perfect, Nancy.
Hello, I'm Nancy Landrum. I'm an American, but I live in Germany. I'm teaching at Munich Business School. So I've been teaching sustainable business for many, many years, and it's an introductory course. I teach it as a foundational course at both the graduate and undergraduate levels. We have, and I've included donut economics. We only have one lesson, one day where we talk about economic models. So I've included donut economics alongside ecological economics and degrowth and a lot of other concepts. I've had donut economics in there since the beginning, back when the information was first released when you were working at Oxfam. So it's, but it's just a tiny part. So now that I'm at Munich Business School, and the reason I'm here today is because I now have responsibility for overseeing a different class that at this time is fully focused on circular economy. And I want to expand the breadth of other economic views in that class. And so I'm here to see, I didn't know about the website with the other materials. So I'm trying to find ways that I can suggest to this other professor additional information that can be integrated into his class without having to redo the entire class. So I'm grateful to have already discovered now today the website, so I can refer him there. So I'm just looking for more ideas. That's why I'm here today.
Welcome. And then last, but certainly not least, Leonith. I think you might still be on mute, so we can't hear you. We can't hear you. If you press, there's the button that says audio, and there's a little microphone in the left corner. If you click that, you should be able to come off, unless there's maybe an issue with your audio on your computer side of things. No, we can't hear it. Maybe if you post in the chat your introduction. I'm sorry, it feels not as quite as expressive as being able to unmute yourself and speak, but I don't think I can unmute yourself. I've sent a request for you to unmute, but I think what we'll do is, if you post in the chat, and then hopefully later on in the session you'll be able to fully unmute yourself. But welcome nonetheless. So thank you everybody for not only coming today, but kind of, I guess, the clear kind of drive and passion and motivation to provide a, oh, sorry, I just lost my screen. To provide like a really amazing education that is fit for the 21st century to all the students that you teach. We are now going to move on to a bit of a discussion about some of those points that were raised, and maybe we'll kind of move through them a bit systematically, and I give Kate a chance to respond to some of them, but I also think let's treat this as a bit of a discussion. So if you've got things to add, points to add, please do unmute yourself, join the conversation. Maybe those first points from Anastasia, Kate, maybe you could share your thoughts on, which are around how you teach economics and donut economics to non-economists, particularly when they don't have that kind of the taste of what mainstream economists is like to kind of to compare it against.
Yeah, great question. So if students haven't studied what we've come to call mainstream economics, but is indeed in itself a paradigm coming from a very particular place. Milton Friedman won when he made neoliberalism seem like it was the normal. One thing you can do, I think, is just say, and I think a real service we can do to students is to say, there are many schools of thought of economics. There's no such thing as economics, because there are many different worldviews that are possible, as there are in many other disciplines. Even, when I was studied economics, nobody told me that. There was just economics, and then there was weird heterodox stuff off at the sides. And there's a wonderful website called Exploring Economics, produced by students in Germany, which sets out, and great if Gemma or Ross could post this while I'm talking, the Exploring Economics website, because you go on that website and it just says neoclassical, monetarist, Keynesian, Austrian, feminist, ecological, complexity, behavioral, Marxist, and it just shows you all these different schools of thought. And you can click on any one of them and it will tell you about the core concepts of that worldview. So one, I think that's a real service that we can do to students to say there are many schools of thought. And I often begin with that and then say donut economics basically draws on these ones. It draws on ecological, feminist, complexity, institutional, and a bit of Marxist. It's here. So that I'm positioning myself from the start. It's like a form of positionality, right? Just identifying where you're speaking from. And I often say to students, ask yourself when somebody comes in and gives you a lecture on economics, where are they actually speaking from? It's coming from somewhere, and it'll normally be a neoclassical framing. So I think that's one thing we can do, but also in the materials that I shared. So for example, I'll just flip back there. I'll just share again. On the embedded economy, it starts, for example, here on revisiting the circular flow diagram. So this is mainstream economics. This is the biggest, when I was a student and still today, this is often the biggest picture that students are taught of the economy, the whole system. And so these slides go through and just modify it and start with it and then say, you know, we're missing the living world, we're missing unpaid caring work, we're missing the commons, we're misrepresenting how finance works, we're misrepresenting how government works, and we're missing the vision of power. So this set of slides, for example, intentionally starts with the old and builds on it and then removes it all and says, what happens when we don't see all of these things? So we can build on those old models. And actually at the end of this slide deck, I think, yeah, one of the very last activities exactly invites us to compare these two different frames, the circular flow diagram, which is coming out of neoclassical economic thinking, and then the embedded economy diagram, which is coming out of ecological, feminist, and commons thinking. And to say, these are two macro top-level views of the economy. I mean, you could do a whole class just comparing these two models, what the value that each of them bring, because they both do useful things, but they both also miss things. So for me, this is one of the ways I do it. I also do it by rapidly critiquing the starting point of economics that I was taught. And I'm interested in your views on this. You know, how long do we have to keep teaching mainstream, even though we know that it's foundationally problematic because it misses the living world, it misses care, it misses the commons in the household? And I refuse to start there as if it was normal, and then what I was doing was a bit of a weird deviation, because that already positions it as, oh, this is the safe, sensible stuff. So, but I'm aware that when I'm brought in and when I'm asked to teach, I'm seen as bringing something different. So, yeah, I'll stop there. But showing students there's a spectrum of worldviews and that they are all contested, I think is a really strong starting point. But I'm sure there are other people on this call who are facing the same dilemma and would want to speak to, how do you handle the pressure to teach mainstream versus actually coming from where you are? John, yeah, go for it.
I think for many of us, unfortunately, we get students when they've already been infected and indoctrinated by neoclassical economics. So, I mean, I'm upfront with the students I have, and I say that, listen, I'm here to deprogram you and to open your mind before you make it up. And it's almost like the weakest part of our argument is just for pluralism. You know, I find it extraordinary that economics departments can continue with simply one model of the economy and this mechanical manipulation of econometric, mathematicized models, and present that as knowledge production and skills development. So I do all of this with my students, kind of, you know, give them the insights into the ideology of mainstream economics, and basically say all forms of economics are, in my view, political economy, which is why I think we should probably start using that word more, because it gets us immediately into the normative, the value bases of our understanding of the economy. So for me, you know, it's a useful way to shock students to, as I do, pick out the ideological assumptions of Homo economicus, for example, of this male, able-bodied, you know, person who goes into the world of work and only makes value by monetary exchange. And, you know, the issue you raised, Kate, about where's care, showing them, for example, that a bunch of white guys in the 1930s who invented the GDP concept, they decided to include military spending and exclude, you know, care work and so on. But also then just finally, and it depends on the student cohort you're dealing with. So for me, particularly with PPE students, that's, you know, philosophy, politics, and economics students, a kind of prestigious UK and Ireland kind of degree, is to get into the details of, for example, Pareto optimality, which is a really important concept, particularly in the microeconomic field of neoclassical economics. It's thoroughly ideological. It's based on, you know, no redistribution can, you know, result in a better outcome. And so it's quite revealing to show students, listen, you have been indoctrinated, and I'm going to show you why. But also then just finally is that certainly for me, and I'm sure for many others on the call, I'm really upfront about my own normative perspectives. I'm offering a green post-growth perspective based upon feminism, a bit of Marxism. And I ask students then, did any of your economic lecturers reveal their ideological assumptions? And if not, why not? And why should the mainstream fear pluralism and honesty? And that's quite effective for some of the students. Some of them really don't want to know this and just want to get a degree and get a job in the city of London or whatever. But I think that idea of being upfront, honest, and open with students works wonders.
Fantastic. I so strongly agree with what you just said, John. Does anybody else want to jump in, whether it's with your own approach or whether it's around this challenge of how you handle the sense that you need to at least speak to the position where you're coming from and recognize there are multiple ones? Go for it, Magdalene.
I would like to show a picture. I don't know. I think I can't. No, I can't. In my course with the name Mapping Sustainability, I ask, as I say to the students that they have to find out an issue that is relevant for them, a problem, and after that they have to analyze the reason for this problem and so on. So they have to go deep, and I can show the results of one work, and after that I could see that they had a lot of questions about economics. I can show the pictures. Yes, now. And this is my way to to teach. So as I say, it's about agriculture and healthy food. And the students, they started with one question, and after some weeks, they had a lot of they have discovered a lot of connection between different areas. And after that, they were looking for a model in economics that could explain this this development. And then I recommended them alternative economics theories, and like what you also mentioned. And this is so my way is a little bit bottom up. So I don't start with the alternative economic models, but I let them, the students, with a mapping, and it was interesting because the students, they are working, so they are not only studying but also working in companies, and some of them are one is a designer, and that's the reason why this picture is so beautiful. So this is an example.
Thank you so much. What was the other question that you were bringing, Anastasia, the second one?
The second one was, thank you, by the way, everyone. That's all like really thought-provoking. Thanks. The second one was about applications. So my student asked me a lot, you know, they will go on the field and they will have to do sustainability assessments and go help companies and municipalities. And they're asking me, okay, but how to do it in practice? Then saying, I am aware of how, you know, they do the unrolling of the donut and so on. But also I was wondering if there are a bit more tangible examples, things as well that you would like to share.
So I'll be very happy to share. So at Donut Economics Action Lab, we have We work in multiple themes. And we exist because when my book came out in 2017, people started coming to me and saying, you know, I'm enjoying the book, but I'm doing it. So first it was the teachers. I'm teaching this in the classroom. I'm talking about this in the boardroom in my company, and we want to be a donut company. What would that mean? What would it take? I'm a mayor or a town councillor. Can I do this in my town or my city or my watershed or my country? And so we set up the organization precisely to work with those pioneers. And so we just collaborate with those who come, and then we try to amplify what they're doing. So we are learning from them, and we make tools like the Donut Unrolled that you just mentioned, Anastasia. But we really learn from them because they're the ones who know how to bring it into a town council or how to bring it into a company. So it's two-way, and it's a thrilling process for us because we get to see the adaptations that people make. I'll just speak briefly to two of the areas. One is in the realm of local government, where it's had a lot of uptake. The City of Amsterdam in 2019 first engaged and adopted the donut and put it at the heart of their circularity strategy. So if anybody here is teaching circularity, circular design from a place-based perspective, the materials from Amsterdam are rich and really interesting. They've published it in 2019, their circular strategy, but they keep evolving and they're pushing. So I would certainly look at Amsterdam as a city, also with challenges, right? It's not perfect, with challenges and realities of how does a city try to move within a country, within a region. So, but we've published a report, which I posted earlier on in this chat, called Cities and Regions, Let's Get Started, where my colleague Leonora Krutcheva, who's our lead, she's working with over 100 towns, cities, districts around the world, and she's written a report of the different ways in which they're getting started. A really good case is like the city of Grenoble in France, where they're doing very impressive things. In the city of Ipoh in Malaysia are just getting started, a middle-income country. So we're seeing different kinds of places start to pick it up. I should preface this by saying it's still all early days. Sometimes people call me up and they say, I'm in Amsterdam or I'm in Grenoble. Where is the donut? I'm looking, look, is it a donut city yet? You know, they want like now. Journalists want it now. Show me a place that's living in the donut. Come on. There's no place that's living in the donut. This is all interconnected. And I often remind myself that Milton Friedman, the bad boy of neoliberalism, he launched his project in 1947. Right? If a journalist had called him 5 years later in 1953, hey, Milton, how's it going? Where is this neoliberal dream? Nowhere. It took 33 years, like, you know, experiment in Chile, and then Reagan and Thatcher made it everywhere. But 33 years, we're not going to take that long. But we are not, you know, we can't say it's happening now. So it's emergent. Often when it becomes real, it goes invisible because it goes inside the city process. It's actually, they're turning it into a tool. So it's not visible in the streets. So that's one thing I'd say about place-based. But also, let me step back a moment and say that places that are actually using the donut as a framework, that's an amazing one specific group. But donut economics isn't about saying everybody has to use the donut. It's about a way to think. And the donut is a goal, but equally relevant would be any place that is bringing in regenerative practice and moving towards a circular economy. So whether or not they mention the donut, that's not the goal. The goal is regenerative design. The goal is distributive design, places that are doing community wealth building, that are investing in public goods, that are rewilding spaces, that are creating public spaces, that are redistributing through taxation, through pre-distribution of the ownership of utilities, of the ownership of housing, of land, of business. So for me, the visibility of the donut is a very obvious sign that they're using donut economics. But what really matters, the big goal, is places that are being regenerative and distributive by design in their policies, whether or not the donut is mentioned, whether or not the donut is used. So that's about places. And again, I'll add in the chat the link to my colleagues' work on cities and regions at Donut Economics Action Lab. The other area that people often want to know is around business. And this is the place where we are strictest, because it's the place you can imagine would be most quickly, easy, open to total greenwashing. every company wants to put the donut on their website as a little kind of cute logo and carry on business as usual. So this is the one place where we are quite strict, and companies get quite frustrated with us because of it, but we decided it's worth it. When companies want to engage with donut economics, we focus very much on the deep design of business itself. We say that's what it needs to be about. Hang on, let me grab my, yeah. On the deep design of business, we just say, look, this is what we want to talk to you about. We made this little signboard. The deep design of your company. I don't want to talk about the design of your products. What matters is the design of the company. What is the purpose of the company? Why does it even exist? What are the networks of relationship with your employees, your customers, your suppliers, your industry allies? How is this company governed? Who's in the room? What are the metrics of success? How is this company owned? By venture capital and shareholders, by the employees, by the community, by the state, by family? Because how it's owned profoundly determines what sits at the bottom is the most powerful. It's the tail that wags the dog, the finance. Where's it coming from? And therefore, what is that finance expecting? What's it extracting? And what's it reinvesting in purpose? So this is the tool that we use with companies. And the companies that we know we should be working with are the ones who say, yeah, we want to talk about our own deep design. And actually, I've just posted it in the chat a moment ago. I can again point you to the tools about businesses, but also we're really pleased that we've recently published 14 case studies of companies big and small across the world that have taken care with their deep design so that they can be regenerative and distributive in what they do. So they really are driven by purpose. And just as the way that Harvard Business School has all these Harvard Business case studies, right, that dominate the real world that students get to study, we're creating this alternative. It's the donut economics case studies, so that you can take those 14 case studies and study them and go and look at the real company in the world, critique them, look at the caveats, look at the challenges, but it begins to make real this alternative form of business. And again, those 14 case studies, some of them identify actively with donut economics, some of them not at all. But what we're focusing on is the design. It's in the same spirit, and that's allowing them to be regenerative and distributive. These are companies that are not forced to try to grow endlessly. They're escaping this endless growth paradigm. So I hope that begins to give some sense of the kinds of practice. I'll say one more thing, which is the guidelines of the tool that we're soon going to publish, which I'm really excited about, is called Sectors. Let's get started. Because we've equally been approached by people working in completely different fields. Food. Can I make a donut about the food system? I work in festivals. I work in highways. I work in tourism. I work in national parks, fashion, water, healthcare. People are coming to us from these different sectors and saying, we want to use the donut as a tool in our industry. So again, we've written guidelines drawing on the best cases that have come so far, steering people. Those are going to be published in May. Again, it could be helpful for very interdisciplinary courses or courses that are in business or in the world of industry. Again, it's very, very application based. So I hope that will also be a useful tool that then students could learn from what's happening in some sectors and apply it to one that they're interested in. Does that help answer the question? Yeah, great.
I think we're about to move on to the kind of final chunk of today, where we think about this as a space, the community of practice, how we can make it most useful. I think we've addressed most of the points that came up, but there was one from Magdalene. I think it might be useful just to spend a few minutes on, which is, I guess, how you used the word homework, Magdalene, but then also I don't know whether you meant in terms of like, is that tests as well? Is like what are the steps you take so that this work is conducted, reviewed, marked beyond just the lecture format? And I guess or not just the lecture format, the kind of seminar or discussive format. And I wondered if anybody had any thoughts on that'd be interested to share, kind of how you move to that space, because mainstream economics kind of has it covered. Do this maths, interrogate this model. But moving away from that, what are the materials that other people have used or been intrigued or have used in their teaching of the donut model? Or Magdalene, if I've misunderstood your point, then please do jump in.
Yes, I mean that in Germany we have the discussion that we try to use the time in the lecture for discussion and less for explanation. That's the reason why I found the slides with from this 8th session very interesting as a starting point for the development of material for the study alone at home. And this is what I wanted to say with homework. It's not something that I would like to test, as I've developed a test. Yes, I have forgotten the term for this kind of lecture, but this is a movement in Germany.
I think you mean, we call it flip lecturing in the UK. Like the students read the materials, they watch the video, they do the content beforehand, and then the time in the classroom is actually used interactively. Yeah, I also teach this way.
Exactly.
John, did you want to jump in on that?
Yes, but I'm conscious I've spoken quite a bit. If there's anybody else that would like to talk before I do. Well, if there's nobody, again, it partly reflects my own teaching practice, where I democratize my teaching, and depending on the level, I allow students to choose up to half of what we study. And through that process over the last number of years, I now know an inordinate amount of knowledge about Temu, Pretty Little Thing, Boohoo, and fast fashion. So I think it's important, if we open up the space to, what's on students' minds, to connect what we're teaching to their lived realities. And that can be quite revealing. It's also, quite demanding on us as lecturers, or we're not doing the same thing each year, so it keeps us fresh. But certainly I think food, fashion, energy, these are things that can be quite revealing in terms of, pulling back the veil of genuine ignorance, you could say, from students. I also find that teaching around food in terms of animal welfare, there's a reason why abattoirs don't have glass walls, how globalization occlude the connection between production and consumption. And, given many of us are teaching in global north contexts, is that issue of consumerism. So I found all of those have been quite useful in terms of engaging students, but particularly because they're more engaged in their learning if they're learning about things that they themselves have chosen to investigate. So I would encourage colleagues to open themselves up to not just a flipped classroom, which I think is a great idea, but actually, why not democratize more and more of what it is we teach? I mean, it's extraordinary that most of us live in democracies, and yet democracy ends at the classroom door or the factory door as well. Why aren't we bringing more democratic processes into how we teach and what we teach?
John, can I just ask you to say like a sentence or two about how you actually do that? Like how many weeks in advance do you ask them, or how does that actually work?
So the first day we all meet up for the lecture or a seminar. I say, here's the 5 seminars I decided that we're going to do. These are the basic building blocks, conceptual usually. And they say, okay, the remainder of the module is up to you. So email me by the end of this week with your suggestions, and then we're going to vote on it next week. So they give me 20 options. We circulate that beforehand, and they then vote on it. So it's completely democratic. I should say, to reduce the stress levels of colleagues if they're thinking of doing this, that the obligation is also on students then for each person to source a resource for that particular class, rather than you as the lecturer having to do this. And that's a little bit more uneven in its delivery, but basically as simple as that.
Thanks so
Great.
much.
Great inspiration.
Junko?
I do something similar in a different class that I teach. I give the students a whole bunch of different topics that we could potentially cover. I mean, I have a few that I definitely have to hit, and I have the students vote, but rather than just have the students provide a resource, I actually have the students work in teams to develop the delivery of the topic in the class. So they put together a sort of class plan, and I vet it ahead of time and I make sure it looks correct. And so now I have a whole library of modules with lots of interactive activities and things that the students have come up with that they enjoy doing for that class. So definitely democratizing it.
Amazing.
Great inspiration.
I feel like there's lots more really interesting stuff we could talk about here, which I guess is a good point at which to say, we're going to go into a breakout room for, I think we'll go about 10 minutes we'll have. And this is a chance for you to have a think about how this space of the community of practice could be best used. I know that in the conversation we had, some suggestions came out that I think would be really useful. We're going to ask you to share, use the link that we share to Miro board. So Gemma, if you could post that in the chat now, so people can kind of get to grips with it a little bit. But there's a challenges. So you're able to take a post-it note and put down challenges that you've felt you faced in incorporating this work, work around socio-ecological economics into your teaching. If there's any areas of support that you think Deal or Rethinking Economics would be really, interested in providing, and then the community angle, kind of what you would want from this, and how you would like this space to be best set up. Gem, I've stolen your mic on this bit, I realise. Was there anything else that I've missed out there that would be useful to name?
No, not at all. I think you've expanded on it perfectly. If you have ideas for how this community of practice might be shaped, the sort of regularity of, say, webinars, please do add that in, because all of your feedback today has been so invaluable in shaping what this might look like. So yeah, if we pop into breakout rooms, just expand on these ideas for 10, 15 minutes.
I will just open the breakout rooms. And I guess if you aren't able, I think someone, Leonith, maybe you're now, your mute is now off, so maybe you can speak.
Yeah, it seems that finally the problem is resolved. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Super.
Perfect.
Sorry about
Well,
that.
you're absolutely fine. You crucially can speak for the main event, which is the breakout room discussion. So I'll put you into breakout rooms, and we'll come back for a final kind of closing discussion afterwards.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim. I was on facilitation mode and totally. I was like halfway through. I went, oh, this was a bit that I'm Jim. Sorry about that.
No, that was great. That's an amazing discussion. I think this recording will be really, really valuable. I'd quite like to join a breakout room just to see what they're talking about.
Go for it.
I'll be back in a minute.
Do you want me to add? I'll just add you to one.
I'll go to red room 2.
Yeah, go for it. Hi, Dasha. Are you able to join the breakout room, Dasha? No, totally fine. If you click, there should be a breakout room button at the bottom panel of your screen. If you click that, are you able to rejoin the room? Okay, no, that's totally fine, Dasha. We'll be in touch with you because hopefully there's some really interesting work that we can do together collaboratively through 1HE. But thank you so much for coming along today and speak soon.
Hey.
Hello. A really good discussion, though.
Yeah, John is great. I mean, they were
Yeah.
great, but it just makes me so excited that these kind of feisty academics are showing up. They want to be part of this.
I think, I mean, maybe it happens before I go on parental leave, but certainly Gemma asked to do a one-to-one with him because I feel like he's full of, that idea of guest lectures is a great one. Such a good output, like a valuable thing that people will get from being part of this.
Also, sharing of syllabus and resources.
100%.
So that's the real question of how, like, what would it look like to host that? Do you have capacity in your website that you would be able to? I mean, it's a whole other question, but what would it look like to host a space where people could share resources?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, hang on, what time is it? Is what does that look like? Because I think the danger is you can create like white elephants with that, of like this complicated system, and like is it a Google Drive? Is it, I don't know. Maybe it's
I have a friend who's developed one actually. He's an American university. He's at Brown University in the US, and he's developed one where people share their syllabuses on climate, and I can get access to that actually. And we could just see it. I think it's quite simple. It's like just a PDF. Literally, people just share PDFs of their course.
Yeah, and you can have like a viewing software, so it's like looking, flicking through a report or something online, but it could just be like the slide, people can download them. Like we could even do like but yeah, sounds really, really good.
Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to give it to you right now. I'll email it to you so we don't lose it.
Yeah. But Gemma was also talking about this even before John's suggestion. So yeah. I mean, there isn't that. There's people have put mentoring and coaching on the community practice. I do think that there's something there. Is it like, if we get, the David Diaz's or the people that have made the change, we could like put them in touch, not to solve all people's problems, but kind of just as a bit of a sounding board.
Yeah. Okay, so I just sent you a link. I sent you an email, both of you, an email to the syllabus bank. I'm going to share it with you now.
Right.
It's just a web page. So here it's in the syllabus bank of the Climate Solutions Lab. You can submit a syllabus. There's a video introduction explaining how it works. And then here below, I think these are the syllabuses. So it's just, you just click on it. And I think it takes you through. Yeah, there you are. Download the syllabus.
Amazing. Oh yeah, that's perfect.
And this guy's a good friend of mine. So if it would be useful to talk to him about it. In fact, he was saying to me, well, I'll talk to him again. No, because he was saying it needs to be a PDF, because he was saying, oh, it sounds really interesting what you're doing and really related, but we don't have a PDF. We have a web page.
Yeah.
Yeah, John is a champion and a good guy, sensitive and thoughtful, self-aware.
I feel, and it's like that mix of all those things, very, very rare to come by sometimes in academia. Kind of astonishingly so cool. That I'm gonna just bring them back in. Welcome back, everybody. And hope that was useful, and certainly all the post-it notes that have been added to the Miro board suggest that it is. I wonder though if anybody from either of the groups would like to share anything particularly kind of useful or insightful that that came out? I'm sure it's all useful and insightful, but like one particular thing that maybe jumped out at you.
I think from our group, I would like to share that some of the resources or the ways in which we could be supported is to have a network, a way to connect with regular interaction, maybe quarterly, not too frequently because we're all so busy. But from that, it came out that perhaps then we could set up mentoring networks. The more senior members of the group could help or guide or offer tips or suggestions to the more junior members of the group, and that could be helpful.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Nancy. Anybody else from the other group, the non-Nancy group? Or any other reflections from Nancy's group as well that might be useful to share? There was a hand up that I missed that I thought I'd seen, but.
No, that was from me. I was just going to mention there seems to be a common theme of mentoring. You know, particularly some of us have been doing this for quite some time, like Kate and others, and I'm certainly up for, you know, helping other colleagues to sense check what it is they might be doing or direct them, give advice. And I think that almost intergenerational solidarity, I think, is really important. After all, what we're involved in here, colleagues, is neither a sprint or a marathon. It's a relay race.
Oh, yeah, wonderful framing. And yeah, that really great suggestion. I saw that. That is something that we're definitely going to work to put into practice. Leonith?
Yeah, well, I take the opportunity to speak now that I can. Yeah, I fully agree with that possibility of mentoring, especially if it can be one-to-one, and especially in cases like mine. I'm completely new to the donut economy community, and what I would like, especially to have access to more methodological ways of communicating, more than the philosophy, which I already communicate in my courses, but more the tools, the methods, the specificity of donuts economics, to understand the different subjects. That's one of the things. And another thing that we exchanged in the group today is that it would be interesting, to see if there are some of the members who can participate in, online, giving, participating in a seance, in a session, on a class, as invited speakers. Something that can provide a different perspectives on a specific topic. So again, that would imply to have a list of availability, some time, topics, something more precise about each one of us.
Amazing. Gemma or Kate, is there anything that I maybe missed off at the minute, or any responses or reflections you want to give to anything we've heard or that you heard in the breakout rooms, Gemma?
In our breakout room, I think there was an emphasis on making sure that these resources are accessible worldwide and also adapting them to place, so incorporating language and culture within them. And that's something that maybe we could create by having this global connection and global network.
And I'll jump in and say, it's wonderful looking at the Miro board and the suggestions that are coming up, and that we can now put them together with the webinar we held on the 31st of March. So now we've got 2, but there's strong resonance between what you're saying in both groups, to connect, to be a community, for the mentoring, to share resources, and to keep building this, right? This is the beginning, and to have it in more languages. So in Deal, we are starting to translate our core tools into multiple languages, but just recognizing these slides haven't yet been translated. And also the resources, the reading lists and activities that I've put together, they're all in English. So there are other ways of doing this. And yeah, what's the smart way of building these resources without it becoming spaghetti, without it becoming overwhelming? But how do we smartly do that? And again, if any of you have examples from other areas where you've collaborated, where you've seen things being translated or seen resource banks being created that we could draw from, that would be incredibly valuable. But this has just really made easily made my day.
Attention, please. This is the staff announcement.
Staff announcement. This is a staff announcement. This is a new team. This is a new group of self-selecting staff, and it's delightful just to connect. We're so pleased that you folks have shown up this morning to get to know you. We know this is the beginning of long collaborations that we can choose to make happen. We are colleagues of choice, right? We're not colleagues of an institution, but we're colleagues of purpose and colleagues of intention. And we make ourselves colleagues by showing up in spaces like this and working together. So I'm just really delighted by this conversation, by the ideas that have come out, and by this beginning. So thank you so much for making this time and joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. And just to say, in terms of next steps, we are going to take the discussions, notes, Miro board, post-its from this session and the session that took place at the end of March. And we are going to be in touch with the people that we need to be in touch with. We're going to share those notes and feedback with everybody that participated or wanted to participate but couldn't come along. And we're going to make some suggestions for what comes next. But whatever that is, you'll be very involved in terms of like shaping it and giving feedback. And yeah, as Kate said, as Gemma said, we are so looking forward to having the small task of changing the world and education along the way.
Brilliant.
Thank you all so much.
Everybody.
It was lovely to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. See you again.
I'll see you in the trenches or the victory parade.
Probably both. See you there, folks. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have we saved the chat? Because also that was so great.
That was
So
good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we should use that video discussion over the last one, because the last one was actually maybe snippets. Question on the videos: do we edit? I don't know how to edit them. I can learn very quickly, I'm sure, but is it simple?
Yeah. So
My
there is one of
staff
those things.
announcements.
No,
I'm in the
listen, it
library.
wove through. Yeah, it's like there going to be never be any noise in this place. Staff announcement. Yeah, I think maybe we should work out how to get someone to do the video editing, but I think that it's not that hard to do through this thing called Clipchamp. I think if your task is to write up the notes and to like maybe have a look at the videos and like think about bits we want to snip.
Yeah.
I almost think it's kind of like if we do like a recorded event, like a webinar, 90 minutes long, it's easy to give that to like Sarah, for instance, to do it and put a nice design on it. But for this, which is like very qualitative, like we want this bit or do, it's like we're kind of deciding. It's probably just easy to do it ourselves. But what we'll do is if you maybe we can just do that together, and I'll show you how the program works.
That would be good.
I'll send you a link to it. It is useful to have in your back pocket just for like it's like to like draw clips from. I'll just post it. But yeah, I thought that was really good.
I love John.
Yeah.
John is the man of storytelling.
He is. I think he. Well, it is.
Does he know Aidan then? He must know.
Maybe. I think he did know Aidan. Yeah. Or Aidan was taught by him, maybe. But if I mean, this isn't an imminent question, but there's probably lots of people we want to get in touch with that are like, I am already doing this, and we're like, oh, like, but he's might be somebody that'd be good just to have a one-to-one with, like,
I think so,
chat.
yeah.
He is so great.
Oh, I love him. Yes, I think so. And I think he would be a great person to kick off like a digital webinar. This is what I do in my university. I was thinking maybe the format would work is, I don't know if we could run them alongside, but quarterly have like intro to the resources, and then one which is just dedicated to someone explaining how they've used them. I don't know if they're separate yet, or if that's too much. Because the quarterly ones could be held with Kate, just introducing the resources and having someone come along, and then there could be one for like members of the community practice, like an open forum.
Yeah, that's that's a really good point. You're right, because like I'm going to save the chats in the folder, because there's sort of like two axes we need to think about, and I was only thinking about the logistical one of lots of people can't come to 5 p.m. BST, people can't come to 9 a.m. So like having two at different times is useful, but you're right that there's like two different kinds of people we want to attract. I don't know. What's that? Is those circles that you drew? Is it like, there's like the audience is like lots of people who we think could be involved, but then there's probably there's a core audience that like might be much more active, and we want to build relationships.
And they will almost they'll be the heart of this community of practice. Like we're just sort of help coordinate them, but they are the ones doing the changes in their institutions and can disseminate their experiences. So I'd quite like to really get that, like a nice way of communicating with each other so they can build up relationships.
Yeah,
totally. They emailed over like a resource bank or something.
Kate just sent did you see the thing Kate is emailed us when you were in the breakout room? She was this like syllabus bank that's and I think this doesn't look hard to create, but we should definitely create.
Yeah.
What was I going to say as well? Yeah, I also really, the first session was really good, but it was just very different because there was more people. This one was like really, and it was also made by not just John, but John brought out something in people that was like really good. I think that was really, but the thing I was going to say was that mentoring idea is such a good idea, I think. I guess and maybe it's a thing we just need to think about, because I imagine there'll be lots more people that want the mentoring than offer it. So we probably need to search out the.
It also feels like John like wants to do that. Like he
well,
wants
exactly.
to share.
Yeah. And but I think like Kate could do some, John could do some, Andrew Fanning could do some. We could ask Dan O'Neill. We could ask like there's people we could definitely ask that I think would be, and they will know loads of people that might do it as well.
Dan O'Neill. Yeah, because if it's once a quarter, it's really not that much to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I need to really think. Yeah, a resource bank. It's still not an obvious way of communicating other than a mailing list, though.
Maybe that's fine. In that, that thing about like we want meetings, but we don't want too many meetings. If the meeting is the place that they meet every quarter, but then there's also these things like some groups will be put in, some groups, academics might be put in touch for mentoring, or they can upload things via a resource bank.
Yeah. So this afternoon there's the deal like call, the global call, which I don't know if I've got something on, but could attend, or I could attend the next one, or just email Rob because he does these regularly for practitioners that are putting donut economics into action. And it would be good to get his feedback on like, I think sure he just does it via a mailing list, and then people just join and then have a bit of time to speak about what they've been up to the past 4 months. But I think one call which is less structured, that they can just get to know each other as well, would be nice. And then maybe in a year's time do a meetup. Like regionally
Yeah, totally.
or for Global Donut Day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's this learning circle for RE like affiliated staffers, but it's not obligatory that you go along.
It's actually the call's at 4:30.
Cool.
So I'll see 4:30 till 6. I'll think about it. I actually could do that. Okay, well, I'm buzzing with ideas and also in a really good mood after that.
Yeah.
Go, John.
And I just feel it's like there's a nice thing about feeling that actually the impact is being made quite quickly there. It's like that Nancy is like, I want to change my course, didn't know they existed, now I do. This is great. We probably need to do something. What we need to do is follow up just so we can say, we can tell that story. But it's so good. Amazing.
Yeah.
I will book it. Sorry, you go.
I was going to say book in a time that we can go through how to do the video.
Yeah. When, and maybe we can just do that with you, like sending out an email to everybody on Action Network. When do you think like you'll have had a chance to go through this, like have written this up
today?
Cool. So we could say, what if we said like Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah.
Cool.
So should we send out the email? Should we send a follow email up today or wait till Tuesday till the video is sorted?
I think let's just wait till Tuesday.
Okay, great.
Just even from a like, sometimes like let the ideas just like marinate a little bit, come back to it. And I think sending something out on Tuesdays is a fine gap. The other thing about John was he had such a way with words. I don't know, it was like...
So do you, though. You have that as well.
Oh, what did he say? It's not a sprint, it's not a marathon, it's a relay.
It's a
That was
relay.
so nice. I was like, yay, clicks for John.
Ireland is the land of storytellers.
Cool. I'll stick that in for just like the end of the day. I put it in for like an hour and a bit, but we might not need all that time. But
Right.
Cool.
Right. I really need to go to the loo. I really needed a wee the whole way through that.
And you still went to the breakout room. That's dedication. Cool. Amazing. I don't know if I'll see you later today, but have a good day and be in touch.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.